negative core beliefs and our limiting beliefs. Negative thinking. When we have negative core beliefs, doesn't that kind of keep us from, living in the moment and being all that we can be? And, most of people's beliefs these days seem to be from negative core beliefs. Now, think about that statement I just said. Most people's beliefs these days do come from negative core beliefs. Hey everyone, James Nussbaumer, and thank you for visiting the For a Better Life podcast. And today I've got a really exciting story to tell you, and a couple of words I want to give you that have helped me and others who have messaged me from the Course in Miracles workbook. Words I've borrowed that I've used for a little short prayer I'm going to share with you. And we're going to talk about living in the moment and what really does it mean to live in the now. In fact, I had a tremendous amount of messages after last week's podcast, but I chose to go with this one, John and Olga, and I hope I pronounced their town right. It's in Western Netherlands, in Holland. John and Olga of Oudwater. Now, I grew up with my grandfather being with a little bit of knowing a little bit of Dutch, and I believe to say that Oudwater is the way to pronounce that. It's Oudewater. Oudwater is the way I would say it. And if I'm wrong, forgive me. Please message me and let me know. But yes, John and Olga, they wanted to know more about, what do you mean there's a different way of looking at the world? John and Olga had said, isn't the world basically about birth and dying? We come into the world and then we pass through time a little bit and then we die and we leave the world. Is that what you mean, Jim, by another way of looking at the world? What do you mean by another way of looking at the world? We think you know what you mean by that, but can you expand on that? Well, I'm going to share a story that will help us a little bit kind of get to the psychological or mindful, we could say, however you want to use it. And there's a little bit of difference between psychological and mindful. They're closely related, but anyways, thank you for visiting me. Today is April 8th, 2018. It's a Sunday. I normally hold my podcasts on Mondays, but this week we're doing it on a Sunday. And for those of you that are on my subscriber list, we're well informed of this. So if you're not on my subscriber list and you're listening to this, please, by all means, subscribe. We'd love to have you. And also, while you're listening to me, if you're at YouTube, because this has been posted to YouTube, please, will be posted when I'm done speaking here, but as time maybe you're listening to me, it will have been posted to YouTube. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. But here today we discuss letting go of negative core beliefs for personal transformation. And as the limiting beliefs fade away, we know we can move on in life. In other words, we can move on in life while the limiting beliefs are fading away simultaneously at the same time. As one little aspect of limiting beliefs fade away, we move on a little bit. As another aspect of limiting beliefs fade away from us, we move on some more. So it's a constant through our life, and you're going to learn it because of the ego-based mind, which we're not going to talk too much on today, but I dwell on that in my books. As long as we're in this world, we have an ego to deal with. And as humans, we are all ego-based as humans. The spirit side of us is not ego-based. So all we can do is be on top of the ego. And I like to say, and I've said this in previous podcasts before, let's treat the ego like a bratty child that we just need to, stare down once in a while and then let it know that it needs to take a back seat. But also, while you're listening to me today, too, and I've posted this in the YouTube description area, and I've also posted this at a blog article that goes with this For a Better Life podcast. There's a wonderful link an access link that will lead you to a great video on manifesting the life that you want, bringing my dreams to reality. through a certain mindfulness meditation that was put together that is just awesome. And I actually recommend that you look into this system. To check the video out is free, and there's, yeah, it's going to offer you to buy the system, but no pressure. You have to do anything. I just want you to take a look at it. But it's a great system that has helped many, many, many people turn their lives around. In fact, I've got an email going out in my subscriber newsletter list of some people that have told me how much they thank me for turning them on to that manifestation program. So I hope that you'll check that out. Now, many self-help and personal growth professionals, life coaches, counselors, therapists, psychologists will admit that true, authentic forgiveness, I mean true and real, authentic forgiveness, is overlooking the error in thought of negative thinking by going beyond it. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means you're overlooking the error in thought. As humans, we're ego-based. So when you forgive, to truly forgive, means to overlook that ego-based error that made the error in thought, maybe perhaps when somebody offended you, or maybe perhaps something you did that you're ashamed of, or maybe perhaps something that you can't let go of that you wish you could, but you can't. You need to forgive yourself on that by overlooking it, by going beyond it. Going beyond to where? Going beyond the human body to who you truly are. And this has actually been laid out in the manifestation principles that I'm suggesting that you look at for getting the life that you want by tapping into the power within you, the real power within you, not in your body, within you. And you can read more on that too as well. I've written a detailed review article on this manifestation review. And if you're at YouTube listening to this, it will be posted in the description area below, so you can link there. It will take you directly to my safe and secure website, where you can find out more on this manifestation. It's a review article that was written on the pros and cons of it, and why it's so great that I feel it is. But I mean that moving on from the past, though, for people's beliefs, rather than harboring loneliness and judgment toward others, maybe rather than harboring loneliness when we lose a loved one, or rather than harboring the judgment towards someone that harmed us, we feel has hurt us, like maybe a divorce situation. So I mean, moving on from those people's beliefs from the past that have taught us, how we should, hang on to, not speaking to somebody that once hurt us. Come on, we have to get over that. And that's what forgiveness is. It's in yourself. It's moving on by letting go. And this live in the moment type thing, or live in the now, is real forgiving. And it has so much to do with, fixing broken relationships and fixing broken marriages, or when a loved one passes on, and, bringing them to holiness, as I'd written before in the ever-developing series of my books that starts with The Master of Everything, A Story of Mankind in the World of Illusion We Call Life, and Book 2, Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom, which is the sequel. And Book 3, that I'm so happy with, is posted at Amazon right now. It's for sale and will be in stores everywhere. In fact, if you go somewhere and it's not on their bookshelves, ask them, why isn't it on this Barnes & Noble bookshelf or whatever bookstore you go to? Because, I, the author, I have to get around to these places, and I can't be all over the world, but we try to, it's available everywhere everywhere books are sold. And if you go to your book outlet, wherever you go to, whether it's even Walmart or Books A Million or Barnes & Noble, whatever it might be, if they don't have it on the shelf, you can always go to the counter and say, hey, James Nussbaumer, can you give me, he's got 3 books out so far of his ever-developing series. Can you look them up by Ozark Mountain Publishing Company? Ozark Mountain Publishing Company. And, ask the bookstore to get them there for you. A little prayer I want to, give with you, first of all, when you when you want to think about being in the present moment, it's just a few words. A Course in Miracles states that when we stand within the holy instant, it means it's an instant. It's a glimpse of catching the now, which is no past, no future. It's now. Course in Miracles relates that to as the holy instant. Now, the Course in Miracles goes quite deeper on the holy instant, but I'm not going to get into that today because that's another podcast. But the holy instant, which for today's purposes is the now, is the present moment. And it's as clear as now as could ever be. Clear. In the present moment, or the now, is where you exist. So, to forgive yourself is also to forgive the past and let it go because it is gone. It never was. It's only there in your mind. It never will be back again. You can't fix it. So here's the words that I use. I'll just say in meditation or prayer, in the present moment and in the now is where I exist. So I'm going to forgive myself. And by forgiving myself, I'm forgiving the past and I'm letting it go because I'm overlooking it by looking beyond it to the real me that I am beyond my human body. Now, if you want to jot those words down, and if you're at YouTube, they are in the description area below. I've posted them there for you. They will be posted there for you by the time you are listening to this. So you can jot them down. So scroll down to the description area and jot them down if you would for your own purposes and incorporate them into your own way of prayer or meditation. Remember, prayer is for asking. Asking to be heard is what prayer is. And meditation is for listening for the answer. When you forgive yourself, this is a little deep, so hang on with me as I carry you on my back to deeper water. You are no longer on the bridge that connects the two worlds. And that bridge is the bridge from regrets of the past to the present now. The bridge no longer exists. It never did because you've always been here in the present. I hope that makes sense. And as I go on, I've got a little story to tell you about something that's in my second book of the series. But first of all, before I get going on, let me repeat again and say to forgive yourself is also to forgive the past and to let it go. And when we say forgive the past, we don't mean regret the past. We mean let it go because there's errors that happen. And as humans, we make errors. And when we can acknowledge that, we are touching spirit more so than ego. So because it is gone, it's gone. And you are no longer on that bridge, as I had said, that connects the two worlds. A Course in Miracles states that we all stand within the holy instant, which is the now, as clear as could ever be. And it is the now, and that is where you truly exist. You may be asking yourself, how do I know when I'm there? I mean, when you're in the now. Let me take a sip of morning coffee here, if you don't mind. Okay, how do you know? The answer is simple. It's when you begin to forgive and no longer even think about it. Being in the now means you naturally are letting go of the past, not worrying about the future because you're looking beyond it to where you are. It's not thinking about it. It's not analyzing it. It's just naturally forgiving. Hope that makes sense because, in this forgiving thing that I'm talking about, the true meaning of forgiveness, which has nothing to do with being judgmental over somebody. And in this forgiving has so much to do with healing broken relationships and bringing the relationship to holiness, which A Course in Miracles terms the holy relationship, where you connect with someone spirit to spirit without ego involved. A lot of couples could understand that. Myself, if I could have understood this years ago in some failed relationships, it would have made a world of a difference. But that's the past. I can't regret the past, like I was saying. But our human nature wants to regret the past. And wants to say, if I only would have known, right? But this is why I urge you to learn breathing meditation and learn how to do mindfulness meditation. It gets you to that alpha state, that where your creativity sits and is always in the now. It's of spirit. With that said, let me share a brief story, a true story with you. Frank and Lorna were a fun-loving couple that were clients of mine when I was a financial advisor. Excuse me. And they had told me of their trips that they would take in their Winnebago. Anyways, their motorhome. They'd travel the country. And let me take another sip of coffee. And Frank and Lorna learned how to forgive and to let go. But very much in love with each other and a life of passion and purpose. They had a close family with 3 children and a few grandchildren, and they had been married for just over 30 years when I had first met them. But Frank thought more of Lorna than anything in the world. They were always traveling the country in their motorhome and saw much of the United States and Canada. Lorna was fighting internal cancer and was undergoing some serious chemotherapy treatments. And she had just finished a lengthy series, very much hoping that it was going to be the end to her cancer. And so after the treatments were over, the doctor said he would be in touch with her in a few weeks and, about her progression and how things were going. So Lorna said that the way she felt was odd. She said that her body physically was very weak, but she had a strong desire to keep moving. And in this, she said, was the source of her strength. Well, rather than sit around and wait to hear from the doctor, the two of them, the loving couple, took off for a much-needed 30-day excursion in their motorhome, and Lorna died during the trip. Lorna's body was flown back home, and Frank had to travel back home alone to greet the body and prepare for the funeral. Well, Frank went out and bought a headstone for the cemetery, and he wanted it to be just perfect for her as a memorial for Lorna. And he had inscribed in it, the inscription on her tombstone said, "The light of my life has gone out." The light of my life has gone out. He had put on her tombstone. Well, Frank was lost for a few years and even told people that he felt as though that he was just walking around town in his sleep. And he had no sense, no desire to even get in the motorhome alone and travel. He had no desire in him whatsoever to do anything. Well, that changed. That was until he met a young lady 10 years younger than he, and he fell head over heels in love. And yes, he found again some more passion in his life. But to be all he is capable of being, let me talk about that. The way Frank had described it to me, he realized he had been mistaken about his first wife, Lorna, being the only person to satisfy his thirst for life. So he felt there was something new being added to his purpose and passion for living. So what he gained the knowledge that he was able to fill that void in his life. He realized it was not his decision. It was not his decision at all to meet and fall in love with Ellie. That was the furthest thing from his mind. But Frank asked Ellie, the woman that he had met, to marry him, and she accepted. But with one simple request Ellie had. Ella knew about the inscription on Lorna's headstone at the cemetery and asked that Frank do something to, maybe change the words a little bit or just, undo it somehow. Since now Ellie was the new light in his life. Well, so Frank went about looking for someone to either remove, undo, or change, or do whatever they could to the wording on the headstone. When Frank found a man who was able to fix the headstone, he went back to Ellie with the news, and the couple together, both of them together, headed out to the cemetery. And they went ahead with the wedding, first of all. Let me back up. They went ahead with the wedding, got married. But after the wedding, they went on a little honeymoon. They traveled out west in Frank's motorhome. And when they got back, they took a ride out to the cemetery when they got back from a long vacation. While they were on vacation traveling in the motorhome, Frank was telling Ellie, I did something about that tombstone, and I think you're going to be impressed by it. When we get back, we'll go out there and take a look. Well, they went out and looked at the cemetery. Ellie was surprised in a humorous and joyful and kind of a, very much loving way when she saw that the inscription on the headstone now read, "The light of my life has gone out, but I struck another match." Don't you like that? The light of my life has gone out, but I struck another match. And that was Frank's way of saying to John and Olga of Western Netherlands, I hope that answers your question about another way of looking at the world. And that is just great. And by the way, it's a way of overcoming adversity. And as you're thinking about it, your own adversities, and you're listening to me right now, it's why I suggest that you look at another article at my blog site. I've got hundreds of articles, and they're all very good. I get messages all the time. But this one is called "Here's Why You Can Overcome Adversity." And you can just put in jamesnussbaumer.com/overcome adversity, and you'll find it. But I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope that you will support my work, because I put a lot of effort into my work. If you're listening to me to this point, by the way, I just can't go on anymore about how I truly strongly suggest that access link to the manifestation video that you watch, and you just check it out, because it is so powerful. But I invite you to sign up for my Everyday Miracles Mastermind newsletter, where you, the reader, and I, the author, we bring our minds together for success in this world, for a life of success and happiness and whatever it is we need to accomplish. I just said that my third book, called "And Then I Knew My Abundance," is now available. You can, if you want to see the display at Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, you can just key in ozarkmt.com/JamesNussbaumer. In fact, at my blog, just go to my blog and you'll see a link on every blog article that I have. I have the link for Ozark Mountain Publishing Company. All you have to do is click on it, and it will take you to their safe and secure website, and you can see all my books there, 3 so far, which many more to come, I promise, because they're already written. All we have to do is get them edited and ready to go, one book at a time. And that's what's happening with me in the next years to come. So I'm planning on a book every 6 months to be released. People are loving them. I'm loving them. And I think the reason people are loving my books is because I love them so much. Hey, if you run into me at a book signing in your area, which I'll be on tour coming soon, and I'll be at a transformation conference in August. I don't have the exact dates right now, but you can find that at Ozark Mountain Publishing Company. They're posting it. It's called their annual Transformation Conference. It's a 3-day event in the Ozark Mountains in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. And it's a wonderful event. I will be one of several authors from around the world speaking, and I'll be speaking for 90 minutes on a subject, and I'll be holding private sessions, 30-minute sessions and 60-minute sessions, depending on what you want to talk about, based on the metaphysical principles of A Course in Miracles, and for a better life, in what you can do to overcome adversity and look at the world in a better way, like Frank did when he had to overcome the loss of his lovely wife, Lorna. But then, now moved on in life with Ellie. And as to this day, as far as I know, they're still together. The story I told you, it happened probably, I want to say off the top of my mind, 20 years ago, maybe. So, of course, I'm no longer a financial advisor, so I don't keep in touch with those clients anymore. And for those of you that know the story, know why I'm no longer a financial advisor. But that's not today's subject. And with that, I've got to go. That story is in my books. If you've liked this and you're at YouTube, once again, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're at my website listening to this and you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel without going there, in the header above and the footer below at this blog article where you're reading this, or if you're reading it, listening to this at the page called A Better Life Podcast, you'll see a YouTube link in the header above and the footer below. Well, hey, I've about run overboard today. Please follow me on Twitter. I love Twitter. I'm gaining good on Twitter. My engagement there is so well. I just love Twitter for some reasons, and Facebook, Google Plus, and Pinterest. Please follow me on those. I'd love to have you. Please send me a message if you would like, either through my website, on YouTube, or at Twitter, on if you have something you would like for me to discuss at next week's podcast. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed, and I want to say, as I always do, I hope you're thinking a lot about your own life and how natural and beautiful you are within, that we all are. You are, too, you personally. And you need to extend that beauty to the world because it makes you happy. And when you're happy, the world becomes a better place. And when the world becomes a better place, that's how you can say, I'm looking at the world in a different way, like Frank did in the story I told you. Hey, I got to go now. I got to run. I hope I didn't leave anything out. God bless. James Nussbaumer signing off.